Welcome to the Guys Unpacked. This is Dre.
This is Rich. And guys, we are back. Season 2 of the Guys Unpacked podcast. We know we took a little break, but now we are back. More new topics, and we're going to do what we normally do, chop it up with all the latest pop culture.
With all the alcohol.
Less alcohol today. Yeah, it's a school night, so
But it's a special night. I got the mo tonight.
Oh, and I'm drinking beer. Dos Equis in it up tonight.
It's special to me.
Okay, I feel you.
Bruh.
Nah, it's been a minute, bro.
Yo, it's so, full disclosure. I used to see you every week, right? You became a staple in my life, bruh.
Yeah.
Right? And I know it's going to sound silly, but like, I went through withdrawal. I haven't seen, like, now I only see you.
Hey, yo, Mark.
Now I only see you on parties and shit. So, like, coming back, like, yo, I ain't gonna lie. Coming up today, I was like, yo, I can't wait to chop it up with my dude, Rich.
Yeah, it's been way too long without good, decent, intelligent conversation. No offense to anybody that I've spoken to.
He's being offensive on purpose.
I'm just playing. But no. We got a lot. A lot's been going on. So we're gonna start with a quick recap.
Sure.
And we ain't recorded a minute.
And let's also say, I mean, we not gonna try to recap the entire summer or the time. Like, yeah, it's gonna be quick. The entire episode got to be quick. Cause you know, at the end of the day, this is one of many more episodes to come.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
So how was your summer?
Summer was great, bro. Summer was great. So I was outside. I was outside.
Bro.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I mean, like, the outside part was great. So, yeah. I mean, we haven't actually had an episode that we aired since we threw our party. So we threw a party at the beginning of summer, technically.
Yeah. Threw a couple.
Right. The first one, though, like, it was one of those parties that I think it was needed.
Absolutely.
Like, the response was great. The vibe was great. I think we all spent way too much money that day at the bar, but it was almost like we just didn't care. We were like, yo, we haven't been outside in so long.
We gave him the cards, and we was just like, yeah, add another one.
Bro, and it was so bad. Like,
you drinking? Him too.
Everybody was like, so the club was charging, like, gratuity in the bill, but then they had the tip line, which we all hate, but no one realized they thought the drinks were expensive. I remember the first time,
and it was, but still, but right. it was like
I got my first one. I was like, luckily I wasn't drunk yet. I was like
something about
this service charge. I was like, this percentage looks really high. I was like, yo, is this?
I had to tell a homegirl that yesterday. Like, look, be careful, especially with them DC clubs. They all add in that gratuity.
Yo, the pandemic did that for everybody now. Like, all the clubs are doing that now. But yeah, like the party scene was nice. Didn't really go out as much as I normally would have, of course. But like, we were still outside. We had the hooky weekend. That was a vibe.
Hooky weekend was a vibe.
Bro.
I mean, honestly, so I can say just about everybody did their thing because I think we were just all so in need of that release that like just about everything I went to was fun. I mean, there was some that was probably a little on the sketchier side where I'm like, all right, this may need some revamping if you're going to do this again next year, but the summer was cool, and not even just events, like getting back out, traveling, you know.
The travel.
Like, just being back outside. And I know, like, COVID is still a thing, so I'm not going to pretend like, I mean.
Is it?
Dog, they got the Omicron joint.
You mean the Omarion joint?
they got the Unicron joint coming. So.
I mean, yeah, so, like, it's funny, because I think one of the last episodes that we had, we talked about, like, COVID fatigue.
Yeah.
I'm in this place now where I'm like, it's not quite COVID fatigue. It's more like, yo, niggas is gonna die if they don't want to get the vaccine and they want to continue living like COVID's not real.
Yeah.
But I like not only did I get the vaccine, I got my booster too.
Yeah.
I'm like, end of the day, I feel comfortable being out a lot more than I was before, and I'm okay with traveling. Like I went to a few places. I went to Mexico. I went to
Costa Rica.
I went to St. Thomas. Yeah, I'm out here.
Oh, and that's same boat where I'm like not as much with the. I haven't been to as many places, but I'm just like not necessarily COVID fatigue, like you said. It is just a sense of I've literally at times forgotten about it. Like I'd be having conversations, and someone might say, "Hey,
where's your mask?"
Not even that. Oh, not even the worst. So here's the opposite effect, right? wearing the mask has become so commonplace. Like, I don't even, it's this second nature now. Like, I don't even think about it. I know, okay, as I walk out of the car, put a mask on. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, that's not even a thought. That's just become reflex to me.
So it's a thought for me, and I'm going to tell you why. So I got I want to say opportunity, because it's not really opportunity, but for work, we've been grounded for a while. But for about a month and a half, I was traveling to Evansville, Indiana, which is not somewhere where anyone is going to be excited to be. It's like...
And Pence that's Pence's state.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like...
That's red as...
Yeah, it is. It's very red, right? But like...
They don't believe in science there.
It's funny you say that because this was back in June into mid-July.
Okay.
So this is still like a time where everybody hasn't been vaccinated yet.
And they still don't believe in science.
Right. So like, of course I have to be masked getting...
I apologize, Evansville. I don't.
And then...
I don't.
Bruh, like there's a little carry-out spot that I would go to for lunch, right? And I would, because I'm from here... I had my mask on as I'm walking. I realized like I'm the only one with a mask on, right? I was like, do I not wear a mask here? I'm vaccinated, so I kind of don't want to.
Look.
And then like this weekend, I was in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia with the fam, right? So I didn't expect to be around a lot of people, but
mansion country.
I stopped in a grocery store, right? And I'm like, do I want to wear a mask, but no one else is wearing one? Like, bro, it's that for me is the most awkward thing where I'm like, I want to wear a mask, but I don't want to be the only one wearing a mask.
See, I'm the opposite. So when I go to like Georgia, and I'll go to some places where at the time nobody was wearing a mask, or the majority of people weren't. Like I watched a guy walk in, and the lady asked her, "You want a mask?" Nope. And because it's just not mandated in certain places. And I'm like, I need another mask now. I want more.
Everybody, I feel you.
I don't just want my mask.
I want all their masks.
Right, I want extra masks because I don't know what y'all doing out here. So
I wonder if it works the same way if like when you double bag. Because if it works that way, then you're like...
And there it was. So, man. So what else?
How was your summer?
Cool. Very chill. Like, I went out, like I told you, partied a little bit, traveled a little bit. And I in a lot of ways, kind of forgot there was a pandemic. I would have to be reminded from time to time. Got vaccinated, but, you know, it wasn't like the vaccine. I felt like it made me invincible or anything. It just made me a little bit more comfortable to do certain things. Right. So still get tested weekly for work. So, you know, because I understand the concept of you can still catch it. And
right.
I'm still, at the end of the day, responsible for the people I'm around.
Sure.
So, but I stopped hesitating to go out. Like if my hesitancy to go out now just be like, I'm tired, bro, because I'm old. Like it don't got nothing to do with nothing to do with COVID. I don't even.
But I think the pandemic like kind of helped like speed that up though, because
my aging.
Not your aging, but
I hope not.
What I'm saying though is like we got to a point where we were inside so much
that we were comfortable.
So now we're comfortable being home. Bruh. So to your point, like there are times where I'm out. Matter of fact, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I went out to link with a friend who was in town early downtown. I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna link up with them. And then there was a party up at like Island Grill or whatever it was in Silver Spring. Yeah. So I was like, all right, so I was out early downtown like 9:00. Yeah. It's like, you know what? Take a couple drinks, whatever. Boom, boom. That turned into pizza on the corner of like 9th and U. And then that turned into, you know, I'm going home. Like I'm good. Like I don't need to be out anymore. And I Ubered.
Let me tell you something.
Ubered home.
What you just described there for me would have ended about 9:00. Like it would.
It started at 9, ended at 9.
Right, like it would not start at 9, ended at 9. Like I'd have probably done the first thing, and then like them other two like it'd been like, bro, take my butt home. Like I tell people like don't let me have to go home and change and meet you somewhere.
Oh, it's just not happening.
If I'm like, let me just go change and I'm gonna meet y'all back out there. Just enjoy the rest of your night.
So that's like, did you see Fabulous on Instagram this week? I think it was actually today. So you know how you can post questions in your story? Somebody asked a question about like if you say that you're gonna go do something and you end up leaving a party. So there were like two parties in particular that he said, like one of the parties he said he left his car running. So he went out and he dipped out. And another one he said he had to like go check his coat or something like that. And it just dipped out. He was like, yo, I'm just not. That's where we are at this point in time.
Like, if I give you an excuse that I have to walk out the door,
I'm not coming back. Like, it's just not.
Just enjoy the rest of your night, yo. Trust me, I've closed my tab already. Before I even came to talk to you,
I will leave the card. I will get that card tomorrow.
I will get it.
I know they're gonna charge 20% anyway, so like, so be good.
Speaking of charging, so all right, a lot has happened. We haven't had a chance to talk about what's been going on in the world. So we're gonna address some of the elephants other than death, right? Because we got the new variant and they're panicking about that. But I don't even want to talk about that because I feel like there's just not enough information on that to even.
I actually do believe we have enough information.
I don't.
Not to have like full-fledged discussions, but I think that like we as a society now, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but like we as a society now have this propensity to need to know everything about it before we make a decision. And to me, like, we have enough information to know, all right, people who aren't vaccinated, when they get sick, they're less likely to be terminal. People who are not vaccinated, who get sick, have a more, I'm not saying they do, but they will be more likely to be terminal.
Yeah.
Or at least be hospitalized, put it that way. Like, and in between, it's, one of the ways to protect yourself is either vaccination or covering your mouth and your nose and like social distancing.
Right.
That's enough information for me to navigate the world.
But so you missed the point I was making. I was saying we don't have enough information on this new variant,
right?
For me to even like either worry or discuss, because I'm like, with each variant there is something, and I was reading up on it. And they were talking about, it's like a combination of different mutations, et cetera, but they just don't know.
They just don't know
if that means it's spreading more quickly, if it's more dead. They just don't know what are the effects. At least as the last thing I read, they didn't know what were the effects of it. Like, what is the difference? What makes this any different? They just know that it's different,
right?
But they couldn't tell. Well, all right, how is this difference? Yeah. Is it going to be more or less resistant to the vaccines, et cetera? So to me, it's all right. I'll wait and I'll let the people with the white coats do the research and just tell me.
You're not going to check YouTube and like
I am
like no.
I'm not getting my information from Joe Rogan. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna wait till they figure it out and then they can tell me. And I'm gonna just go with what they say. And if that makes me, I'm cool with being a sheep.
Hey,
I'm totally. But I'm just like I'm not a scientist,
bro. Like I was literally talking to somebody about this week. And it's never to knock anyone, but my thing is, I really don't like when people say, and it's no matter what part of the argument you're on, people be like, I did my research. No, you read someone else's research. Because like unless you were one of the white coat people, like who's literally looking at like data.
That's the best thing. Like if you were not in a microscope determining what attached to what that caused what, you didn't do your research. Let's be fair. Reading published things is a form of research, so I'm not going to downplay that. But I also
there's a barrier,
right? I also get the point. I'm completely
you with me,
right? I'm with you. I'm just saying I'm not going to act like reading it is not doing research.
Sure,
it is.
We don't want to discourage people from not reading, right? So
it's already too much.
I will say this though, right? Kind of to your point, I much rather do my research from people who are actually doing research,
right,
with sample sizes large enough to give me probabilities, and be like, I'm gonna rock with them. And to your point, like we can be the sheeple, there, other than like these one-offs who are in the minority. Not saying that they're wrong, but like you just don't have enough data to prove to me that what you're saying trumps what the people who have the majority of data are saying.
I'm just waiting to get my superpowers, dog. That's it. Like, I did not get it with the first two shots.
I mean, you're pretty brolic, bro.
So I'm waiting to see if the booster is what activates the superpowers. That's the goal.
I mean, you kind of brolic, bro. Like, and I ain't gonna lie, like, I lost all my gains and gained a whole bunch of weight. Yo, that's the one thing that did not go well for my summer.
Oh yeah, because I noticed the you and Chris video stopped,
bro. It stopped.
Yo, hey Chris, what happened, bro?
So part of it was that life got busy, but like aside from that, like I ended up suffering from an athletic pubalgia, which is also what they call like a sports hernia. Playing soccer. Okay. Trying to act like I'm in my teens still, and I'm not.
Behind us, bro.
The thing is, like, I'm still fit, so I'm like, oh, I'm good enough, bro. I remember the game as well because there was this one player, and he was eating people up, and I'm like, you're not gonna eat me up in this game, and I kept up, but by the end of that game, I was like, I'm feeling a little more sore than normal.
Yeah. And
then for months, it's like, the soreness is not going away. Went to the doctor, whatever. Fast forward to last week, I ended up doing these things called PRP shots. Like platelet-rich plasma, where they take your blood, centrifuge out the plasma, and then they inject it into the injury part. Bruh, so this is the injury is in your groin area. So I didn't realize this dude was going to be injecting me where he was injecting me. And when I say...
You get his number?
I literally...
This man I get injected, I'm groin.
I literally told dude, I was like, yo, so ain't no foreplay. We just because he didn't even say, yo, I'm gonna do this in like 3, 2, 1. I literally yelled out, oh fuck!
He went straight for it, huh? He just
and
non-consensual.
And I'm gonna take it too far now. He had to give me 2 shots. So I was like, oh, okay, this is what we doing here. I was like, all right, it's just no lube. Okay, cool. The worst part is I have to go back for the second round of shots next week. So anyway. Talking about shots.
Son, what is the segue, son? I can't even segue that one properly right now.
People getting shot.
Bruh.
Different kind of shots.
Hang on, bruh.
Need time. You need to collect yourself.
Right.
Collect yourself.
I wasn't prepped for that at all.
Right. But
hang on, no.
Okay.
Oh, we talking about, when you said shots, because I was like, what shots are we talking about? You talking about the trials.
The 2 trials. I was trying to lightly segue into it, like we're laughing, so it's not going to be too far. But
because I don't know how, that was like,
how do we get from this?
Worst segue.
You carried the 2 and subtracted 3,
worst segue ever, bro.
Like,
but nah, so all right, so let's talk about it, right?
Right.
Rittenhouse. I'm just saying, I never thought he was going to jail.
Sure.
Not for 1 second. Honestly, I'll even take it back to when I found out the people he shot wasn't black. Back then, I was like, "Ooh, they not gonna get this one."
I was right there with you. So I didn't think I was on the fence because I just don't. I honestly didn't pay enough attention. But to your point, I knew that the victims were white, and he's white. So I was like, "There's not going to be as much political outlash."
Right.
If this doesn't go that way, and I was like, also, it was literally in the middle of a riot. So I was like, I just don't know. I don't know enough of the pieces in order to be able to make a decision on this one.
So like, I was paying attention to it, and here was the 2 things that stood out in my mind. One, it reminded me of the case. I forgot the kid's name. I deliberately removed his name from my brain.
Okay.
I just wouldn't remember it. Right. The one that raped the young woman behind the dumpster.
You talking about the college student?
Yeah.
Yes.
And when the judge was like, even though they found him guilty, the judge kind of said, well, I'm not sending him to jail because I don't want to ruin his life. Right.
I remember, yeah. And he was a swimmer.
Yeah, whatever he was.
Yeah, I remember.
But so it pulled me back to that because when, after the Rittenhouse thing, everyone started to frame him as this, young, good kid, blah, blah, blah. And because, like, to your point, they had it was in the middle of protests and riots or whatever. And he was on the side of the folks.
Law.
Right. So when you saw all of that, I was like, they're not getting this one. I just looked at the style, I was like, they're not getting this.
Fast forward it.
And then he didn't shoot black people.
Right.
Because I think had it been, not that I wanted it to be, but had it been black people, then he would have gotten swept up in everything else that was happening.
But then you add in there that, like, the judge also didn't allow the prosecution to use victims. Like, you start talking about it had to be, what was it, like, rioters or looters, but you couldn't classify them as victims.
Well, not that it had to be. He said if they can prove that they were engaged in rioting or looting, he would allow it.
Okay.
But he would not allow them to use victim, which I found out because I read the article too, right? I heard when the article came out, and I found out it's not a completely uncommon practice. Some judges will rule that you can't use the term because they believe that
that'll help sway
right.
the jury.
So I because at first I was immediately like, well, that's some BS, right? But then in the same article, because I'm not doing the clickbait thing, I'm actually reading the article. It did mention that while it's not all judges, but it is not like, oh, it wasn't so unbelievable that he did this, because there is some precedent where some judges will make that decision. So either way, but I'm saying even before that, when I heard the facts of the case, I was like, I don't think he's going to jail.
Yeah.
It sounds, when you saw all of the right wing celebrities and media and everything kind of getting behind him, and I think like people like got together and posted his bail or something. Like a lot of people were behind him and supporting what he did from the start. So I just didn't think they were going to get 12 people to put him in jail. I didn't see that coming.
The nail in the coffin for me was when the judge ruled out him using a weapon with deadly force. Like I was like,
I think they also ruled out like the carry, because he was underage. Right. He was 17.
Not only was he underage, he brought it across state lines.
Yeah.
There were so many pieces that all that got thrown out. I was like, this doesn't look too good.
The fix was in on that one from the start. I wasn't expecting that. Now the McMichaelses, George and Travis, bruh. I knew up front they were not making it out. They were because that was too close to George Floyd's killing. Like when it happened, when they killed Ahmaud Arbery, it was like within a very short time frame, 2
or 3 weeks, I think.
Right.
Something like that, yeah.
So when I saw what happened with Chauvin, I was like, yeah, they're going to. Like they're not gonna be able to slide on this one. And then all the evidence was there, you know. Sure. And what made it worse was their testimony. Because even like Rittenhouse's fake cry was trapped. It was hilarious.
I couldn't even laugh. Like it was awkward to watch that.
I laughed though.
Like I was like, this is really uncomfortable watching this
the
little child.
Like
it was the look at like at the judge where he was like, I was like, nah, buddy.
It was the straight, like they said, like I need, they sat back. He sat with the attorneys like, I need to see your fake cry, and they were like, I guess it's as good as good. Right, do this when you get on the stand.
My sons cry better than that shit. Bro. Like both of them.
I've seen niggas cheating, lying to their girls about how they want them back. Put on a fake cry better than that. Niggas that know they about to go back and cheat, but still, when they telling the story, put on a better cry than that shit that he did. And again, that's not what got him off, but that should have been what made somebody be like, nah, bro, you got to go to jail just for that performance. Like,
so you hear he unenrolled from, I think it's University of Arizona. I think it's University of Arizona.
Okay.
Whoever, I don't care. I will say this is the one piece of cancel culture that like I appreciate. Mm-hmm. I don't appreciate it in general, but like it's good to see it actually used in form. So essentially, like students just protested about him attending the school, which is not something that I would be okay with. But like in this particular situation, I'm like, I get it.
Right? Yeah, no, yeah.
I'm right with it.
Honestly, and that's kind of the sentiment with some of this stuff, where it's like, typically I wouldn't like this, but for you, I make an exception.
And the beauty behind it is this too, right? It's like they didn't force you out. Like you just don't want to be in a space where people know who you are and hate you.
Here's the flip side of that though. There are going to be schools they'll welcome.
Oh, for sure. Like, and honestly, he should go to those schools. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't go to the schools where most of the people don't enjoy your presence.
Agreed.
You know? So, but to your point now, the next case.
Yeah, I knew they were, they sunk themselves. He should have never testified. Did you actually watch
I paid no attention to either case.
Oh.
Very similar to the Chauvin case. Very similar to all these cases. Like, I deal with enough of this shit, like, in general. Mm-hmm. I don't need to put my sanity in someone else's hands. So I will wait to see what the result is. And I don't mind being upset or happy about a result, but it's the lead up and all the anxiety around it that I'm not about it.
Yeah. For me, I'm fascinated by the process, right? I do enjoy the process because, like, I believe truly that it was set up in a way that it's supposed to be fair. Now, the problem is the minute you add people into that, you can't take the human element out of it. What I mean by that is like if you look at just the way the jury system is set up, it's technically on paper. If someone just read that system,
theoretically it works.
It'd be like, yo, this is the right way that you deal with
these
prosecuting.
Right.
But the problem is you have the judge who is going to put his influence on it.
Right.
You got the attorneys. You got the people, because,
even the jury,
right? That's what I'm saying. Because with a case this high profile, you're not gonna find, unless you're Mo's friend. So that dude that didn't hear about George Floyd.
Like you're wild.
So Mo has a friend who told him what, like last week.
He
didn't know he never heard of George Floyd. And I was like, yo, y'all should see Cupid because this is the first time Cupid.
How is that even possible?
Right? Because I was like, what did you think?
Right? Because if you remember, like in the conversation, I was like, does he have a TV?
And honestly, yo, Mo, if your friend is watching this, I don't believe you. I think you lied. But
if your friend is watching, it shouldn't be a friend.
Right. But I don't believe the dude. I think the dude was lying. But let's say,
even if he's lying, like you shouldn't even lie about it.
Right.
Like that's how I feel.
Let's say at this point you never heard of George Floyd.
Right.
Something is wrong with you because you don't actually have to make any effort. Like the world was burning.
Bro.
In other countries, they were protesting.
I'll take it a step further. In all because full disclosure, this person is black.
Yeah, it's the worst part.
I'm just saying, right? In the past, like white people in general have the luxury and the privilege to not pay attention to all this shit that goes on.
Right.
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No.
Right. All the white people know about George Floyd, so and
that's the other thing. I was gonna say, like, they had the privilege of not paying attention to the small stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was like
it was so in your face, they
protested in America for weeks. They were protesting in other countries.
When cops actually say, "Yo, yeah, he wrong," there
was a lot happening. So for you to say that you never heard it is like, all right, whatever.
You either live under a rock or you really just you're lying.
Or you're lying. That's how I felt. I was like, you know what?
He's lying.
I thought about it. I was like, nah, this dude lying. Like he was messing with Mo. There's no way he never heard of him, right? So anyway, but with that one, like so many people heard of this.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna find 12 impartial people.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Everyone has an opinion whether they say they do or don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
So what ends up happening is what is supposed to be a perfect system becomes very imperfect because that human element is there. Because I could tell you without a question in my mind, unequivocally, right? Let's say I was on the jury for what's the dude that killed Trayvon? Zimmerman, right? I was walking in there.
And he's guilty regardless. Right, it doesn't matter what you give me, he is guilty.
In my mind, I'm not even actually listening to y'all.
Sure.
I am thinking about what Marvel movie is coming out. I'm spending
and how do I make this system work for me to say he's guilty?
Right. Because the minute we get in the deliberation, guilty. Are you gonna
Nope. I don't care.
But we want to present nope.
Right.
So I'm telling y'all, he's either guilty or we hang in this jury. Y'all not getting me to vote not guilty.
Right.
And that's just me.
Right.
Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't care. I know that my bias in certain things that are public, I already got my mind made up in certain things, right?
So the thing though is, and this is why I appreciate your perspective on this. At least you're honest enough to say that that's how you see it, right? The difficulty is you have people who they're lying to themselves and definitely lying to us, where they'll say like, "Oh, I have no bias." No, but you do.
Right.
Like you have to have a bias. Otherwise, you're not a living human being.
Right. Most people, I think most people have. And I could say I could put aside my bias because, all right, to bring it back to what we're talking about, right?
Right.
Rittenhouse. If I was on that jury, because while I paid attention, I didn't, look into the specifics of what happened, right?
Sure.
Let's say you presented a compelling case for self-defense. Things that maybe the media wasn't reporting that are coming to light in the trial, right? I don't know how I'm going to vote in that because I'm not going into that
with a
preconceived. Right. Yeah. I know that there's aspects of that versus like what happened with Trayvon Martin where we know exactly what happened.
Right.
So I don't need any...
Like, bro, you were told to leave.
Right.
You kept on going. Right.
So I don't need anybody to tell me anything else. Right. I was like, nope, guilty. But like with this, all right, well, let me hear what happened.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
I may have gone in there with my own personal biases and still can say, well, yeah, they put reasonable doubt in my mind, so... And that's the standard. If you give me reasonable doubt, I can't go guilty, so sure. I have to go. So anyway, with them two, the fix was already in the opposite direction. You just knew. I just and it started with the beginning from way back.
All of it. Like and I will say shout out to the judge. Mm-hmm. Like normally I'm not a fan of most judges, and not to say that they're good or bad, but most judges, they're so impartial sometimes, or at least they try to appear so impartial. And sometimes you're like, you seem really biased in this situation as well, but for other reasons. Yeah. This one I actually got to give a shout out to because I know there was a point where the defense was trying to get certain people out of the courtroom. I think it was either Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton, whoever it was, and he was like, "Yo, these black preachers inside of the courtroom." And I remember the judge was like, "I didn't even know he was in here." Right. Like, so I was like, you know what? Good for you. Thank you.
And you know what? That brings up a good point about just the audacity.
You mean the caucasity?
Dog.
Yo. Are we talking about what we talking about?
Because here's the thing, right? Like with this guy, the attorney.
Sure.
I'd have given you if it was like you were given a press conference, someone asked a question, off the cuff you came up with an answer, and it was kind of off color or not PC. We've all said things in the moment that we realized, damn, I definitely should have phrased that shit. I shouldn't have said it that way. Sure. I should have phrased this better. No. He had time to plan this. Mm-hmm. He knew what he was going to say. Probably said it in the mirror, probably ran it by his coworkers, like, yeah, this is what I'm going to say tomorrow in this press conference.
Talk to his wife about it.
I don't want these black pastors. I don't know how many pastors they have. I don't want just a bunch of black pastors in here. And I'm like...
You got to figure out a better way to frame that.
Right. I was like, wait, this is what you went with?
Bro.
In a speech that you prepared. Mm-hmm. But it shows whereas, like, they actually don't care. Like, and I'm not going to say all white people. Like, the ones who are completely, like, oblivious to their privilege or completely super entitled.
Because so I do think it's a case that they don't care, and I do believe that it is most white people, and I don't believe that a lot of it is intentional though. Mm-hmm. That's the part, right? Like I think there's a difference between literally being oblivious to your point, and then also actively knowing that what you're saying is just taking control over a situation. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of them they're so oblivious that they don't care because they don't believe that what they're doing is something wrong. In this case, I don't. And I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt because I don't know him. I don't follow him. I don't know enough about him. I don't. But like the fact that he said it so like easily, and not just like we're not talking about like grand jury where nobody else is there.
Right,
like,
you're on TV. You see the cameras.
Not only are we on TV, like bro, this is a high profile case.
Everybody's there.
You know that this is going to be a headline.
And the crazy part of it is like, this is not even the core of your defense right now. Like this is the battle you're going to fight. The pastors that are showing up, the thing that you have no control over because the trial is still public. Like, bruh.
I mean, I'll take it a step further. The thing that probably historically has been the linchpin in trying to protect black lives for the last however many decades, right? It's usually the black church because whether it's because families couldn't afford law or whatever it was, like this is a black church who historically has been doing so. What you going?
That's what you're gonna attack. Like, and then so like, but no, it's like our friend was telling us this week where these white women saw them. Friend of ours had a situation. He's out to dinner, couple of black guys. Yep. And middle-aged white woman sees them and just leans over and asks them, "Hey, do you guys have any weed to sell?" Right, like to sell, like not even just do you have weed, like. to me, I'm like, what is it about me that makes you think I'm a drug dealer? Like,
we're in DC.
Nope,
and it's legal.
Nope.
I'm just joking. I'm just messing with you.
Nope, because go to a dispensary. If that is the case, right? Like you saw me here and thought
I
got weed
I think
on him.
really and truly though, right? Really and truly, because no, it'd be completely different. It was some middle-aged white dudes. I think that essentially what it was these middle-aged
dumb shit. I know it.
These middle-aged white women. They wanted some blackness.
I know. I look. The minute you stopped, I was like, I see where he's going with this.
But like, tell me there is not a possibility.
No, you're right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. That was the segue. That was the that was their way. That was them shooting their shot.
You're like, well, we can't just say, hey, you got some penis to sell.
Right.
It was like, got some weed to sell.
Yeah, right.
And we were smoking with you.
And does it come with dick? Yo, I didn't even think of that.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm gonna tell my boy. Maybe they reacted to that their own way.
What was the first thing I said?
You didn't ask if they were.
I said, yo, were they at least cute?
Yeah,
like,
you didn't ask, yeah. Like maybe they handled that wrong. We're gonna run this. We gotta run this conversation back. But
back to caucasity.
Yeah.
So, what's the kid's name?
Tony Humphrey.
Tony Humphrey.
Yeah.
Baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what school it was, but like prominent baseball player. Already got accepted to a school, a D1 school playing baseball. Practicing drills to run faster, and he
decided to sign up for the track team. He was already fast,
right?
And decided to sign up for the track team,
right?
To get faster,
right? Which makes total sense, right? Like, especially as a baseball player, if you hitting well and you trying to steal bases, hey, you need to be fast,
right?
And what does this athletic director say to him?
Bruh.
Like
he was like, you got so fast running from the cops. And here's the worst part of it, right? Here's the worst part of it.
What's the good part of it?
No, there's no good part. I didn't say here's the bad part. I said here's the worst part of it, right? Okay. There is no even like there didn't even seem to be like a sense of remorse or like I was like it was like nope, fired, like or they allowed him to resign, took the pay, but it was like he accepted and owned this statement that he made.
He thought it was funny.
And I was just like,
yo, did you watch the actual news report?
I did.
So when I watched it, I was like, this kid's not angry enough. Like I need to be angry.
But you got to remember too. By the time they're talking to the news,
but still, like I need you to be angry. Like and the thing is, I actually appreciate that he wasn't angry.
Yeah, that's what
like it's good because all that does is shows that he's built to deal with this kind of shit moving forward.
And that'll serve him well in sports.
Yeah, right.
And it also shows a level of, okay, you know what? I'm not going to fake like I'm angry now.
Sure.
Days later, because obviously this already happened. So maybe had they caught him when it happened,
right,
you might have gotten a different reaction. But at least he's like, no, I'm honest. Like, you know what? I thought it was some bullshit, and I'm a benefit from this. I'm still leaving the school and going. I've already committed to this D1 program.
Right.
I'm just gonna transfer to another school. I'm not gonna allow them to continue.
What's actually super dope about that too, like which I love actually about this story, is that he was going to a prep school. Mm-hmm. So he was going to a private school.
And he went to the
and then he ended up going to a public school.
Right. He's like, I'm gonna finish it out in public school.
And again, I don't know exactly where it was. I actually don't care ultimately. No. But at least like if this was in this area, moving from let's say a DeMatha or a Georgetown prep, where the programs are seen in a much elite, higher level, right? To then be like, all right, I'm gonna go to some Coolidge High School or whatever high school is in the area, public high school, which isn't really known for the athletics.
Right.
Like, granted, yes, he was already committed, but it also says a lot because at the end of the day, if you're a senior, you still want to go out with a bang.
Right.
You still want to go out with a bang, and you're probably not if you're going to a public school.
Right. No, and that's but that's your point. It says a lot because, yeah, he is already committed, so it's not like he's worried about
his future.
Right.
But his immediate future.
But he's also sending a message at school that I don't care about your reputation.
Right.
I'm not going to stay here if this is the type of behavior that, and you can say you fired him or whatever, but you condoned it to the point where he was comfortable enough
saying that shit to me.
Right. Like he there was a level of comfort that he enjoyed here.
Like all that says to me is the culture is just in that school system is just so fucked.
Right. And so, but that is what it is. Congrats to that kid. Good for you, your mom, standing up and getting up out of that system. Now, let's address the main thing really quickly. You're going to forget about?
I mean,
all right. All right. So, if you don't know, for anybody who doesn't know, Trinidad, Keith Rowley, the Prime Minister.
I think we need to put a pause on that.
What are you putting a pause on it for?
Like, we didn't even talk about Dave yet.
Oh, we do got to talk about Dave.
We got to talk about Dave. And we can talk about Dave afterwards. We got to talk about Dave, though.
Yeah, we do got to talk about Dave. All right, so let's get to Dave now. We get to Dave now.
Let's get to Dave first.
And in fact, I tell you what, we could even table Trinidad because I actually want to get some more info on what's going on in Trinidad.
Okay.
We could table that.
We're not going to completely table it. We'll talk a little bit about it, and then we can continue.
All right, so let's hit Dave. All right, so the floor is yours, sir.
My man Dave.
Yeah.
So
Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle. So
Dave Chappelle.
I think there's so many pieces to Dave now.
Listen. All right, first of all, so give me a minute, right? I want to start by saying
yourself?
No, I don't want to collect myself. I want to make sure I start by saying big fan. I believe Dave Chappelle, comic genius, and I don't even have a problem with any of the stuff that he's been doing or saying that's getting him quote unquote canceled by certain people, certain aspects or facets of the media who are quote unquote canceling it. I do believe that some of the ways that he's handling it are probably not the most constructive, but he's handling it in a way that's true to who he is.
So I think we got to backtrack a little bit. And when you say handling it, we're talking about the closer.
Not even just remember, it's not even just the closer, right? Okay. So the issue stemmed from a few specials before, right?
Gotcha.
And the closer was him just kind of
bringing it to an end,
right?
Which wasn't really an end.
It was not an end. It was more of a beginning than anything else.
He turned the volume up. He was like, "Yo, let me turn it up,
bro." But in reality,
so the way that he is responding to it is what you're saying is what?
I'm saying it's not always, because it's not always wrong either.
Okay.
He is, one thing I like with Dave and I appreciate about him is he is brilliant in his approach to handling things.
Sure.
So if you look back at how he handled the contract he had with the Chappelle show and stuff like that, he's smart. He was like, you know what? I'm going to get the support of the people.
Sure.
And I'm going to let
you play the long game.
Right. So I'm okay with taking these L's, but what I'm going to do is this. So during the pandemic, when he started to do the shows from the cornfield or whatever.
Right.
And he did
cornfield. You mean it's like a barn.
Cornfield, barn, they're all the same shit to me, dog. It's all farm shit to me, son.
It's all rural America.
Right. It's all
Ohio.
It's all Ohio as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
So when he started doing that, it showed, well, okay, I'm not even trying to come out here and make $1 million off of these. Right. I'm gonna put some shows up, but I'll make sure I record them and I'm gonna have content for a post. So like you said, playing the long game. He's very smart. And continue to put out content and address social commentary issues and keep things in perspective. He's become more of a storyteller than a comic at this point.
Social commentary, more than comedy, all day.
And he puts it in a way that is interesting. Right. You listen to it.
And light enough for you to digest it.
Right.
Right.
So I don't have any issue with that aspect of it. I do think, though, he has taken a very heavy-handed approach to how he's responding to some of the critics. I love it. I love it. Some people do.
I'm biased, but like, right. and I'm gonna tell you why. Like, I think that he's such a genius, and then coupled with the fact that like the comedy space has been historically a spot where you can make light of a lot of the things that people want to say but don't know how to say.
Right.
Have the conversations about topics that people don't know how to have conversations about. And that's why a lot of comics have been given the agency to blur the lines between like saying offensive things, whether it's around gender, race, sexuality, whatever it is. So I look at it from that standpoint. Like, this is not Dave Chappelle in my workspace saying these things. This is Dave Chappelle on stage saying these things.
Right. Absolutely.
And I take it with the grain of salt that everything he's saying is also not like 100% factual. He's saying things also with a punchline. So even though it feels like social commentary,
and it's designed to evoke a reaction.
Right. So
it's on purpose.
Right. So like I'll take one little anecdote, like the piece that he talks about when he like fights the lesbian and he like tenderizes her titty. Like, bro. Like I know for a fact he didn't fight a lesbian, right?
Right.
But like the way he did it, it was so corny but funny that I laughed. But then when I started seeing that like certain publications were talking about how like, oh, he promotes violence. Come on, man. Like he's not promoting violence. He's literally lightening the conversation. And I will also say this. I understand that as I'm gonna say, hopefully I say this right, as a cisgender male, right? Like someone who was assigned male at birth,
lost me. Though.
It's the whole LGBTQ RSTUVWXYZ.
Nigga with a dick that fucks girls. Go ahead.
No, it has more to do with identity. So it's like
it's
like the doctor who said that I'm a boy, and I also say that I'm a boy. Like that's really what it is, right? Either way, as that guy, I also understand that I'm coming from a place of privilege to look at this from the lens of like I'm not a part of the community, so I can laugh at it from outside. It doesn't actually affect me. So I look at it I try to look at it from all those angles.
Okay.
But either way, I didn't look at his special solely from like that spot. Like if you only look at it in like that sound bite, then yes, it's very easy to be offended by what he says. But if you listen to it in its entirety, even though you might cringe in parts, because honestly, I cringed at parts. I was like, "Ooh, Dave, don't say that." Like, it's going a little far. But if you listen to it in its entirety, you see, or you could see, if you allow yourself to, all the pieces that he's trying to like thread together to get to the end of it. And that's the reason why I actually like comedy specials, at least from good comics. You can see that all these individual jokes that seem like individual jokes are usually a part of a way longer storyline.
Sometimes.
That's what I say. Good comics.
Yeah.
Right. And you can see actually in his.
In fairness to comics who that's their style.
Sure.
Right. So you might.
Sure.
So go ahead.
Good point. Right. But for his, if you actually watch it more than once as well, you can see that from his first joke until the end, it's literally a thread through the entire thing. It's not like just one joke after one joke after one joke, and like none of them actually make sense. Yeah. Right. So I loved it. I thoroughly loved it, and I knew that there was going to be some backlash. But when I started seeing the amount of backlash, I was like, nah.
Okay.
Y'all couldn't have watched the same thing I watched. And then what I realized is what a lot of people were saying was, I don't need to watch this in order to have an opinion of it. And I was like, oh, so we really just canceling just because of a headline or a soundbite.
They're canceling off of clips. Now,
which is what happens. This is the culture we live in, right? Yeah. Like that's what it is.
Now, in fairness to those people, though, right?
100%. Like I already know where you're going. Go ahead.
No, I'm gonna say in fairness to those people. So I watched the whole thing, but I also do feel like sometimes, depending on the clip, if you can catch a clip in context, that can be enough. I may not need to watch an hour and a half long special if I can catch this particular part of it and say, you know what,
this is not for me.
Right. And honestly, like again, to use an example I use often, where I'm like, if I listen to someone tell a whole story, but a white person tell a whole story, right? But in the middle of the story,
I already know where you're going.
They start going off with the niggers, right?
With the ERs.
Right. Somehow.
Even the A's, like it doesn't even matter.
Somehow. I don't care about the rest of the story.
I'm with you.
You know what I mean? It's like, So, and that may be unfair to that storyteller.
Does it, okay, so I'm going to just ask, as devil's advocate, does it matter who that white person is? Because I'm going to say this. if it's Gary Owen, who actually wouldn't even do it, but if it's Gary Owen...
No, it does not matter who that white person is.
Okay.
Here's why. Because that's exactly to your point, right? For people who understand the connotations behind that word...
Like they won't even do it. Like, right, because Gary Owen wouldn't even do it. Right.
So if you would do it, then...
It's funny because, like, the people who are allowed to do the things, like, don't do it because they know that it's... Right.
So that's why I'm like, it doesn't even matter, right?
Yeah.
With Dave, I agree with you. Now, so I watched the whole special.
Okay. How many times?
I only watched it once because I didn't think it was that funny, and this had nothing to do with the. To me, Kill Him Softly was my favorite Dave Chappelle special, and I've watched every special of Dave. I'm a big fan.
Me too.
Kill Him Softly was my favorite. There was one of the ones he did in the middle. I think it was Sticks and Stones. I loved that too. In the middle of this whole like Netflix thing. Yep. This one was just okay. Like it was points where I was like, oh, I got the joke, but nothing had me like crying laughing. There aren't jokes that I'm like that I go back to like I do with stuff from the Chappelle show, right? But I was clever and it was very intelligent. It was very well put together to get his point across, which is what like I said, I've noticed he's been doing with a lot of the stuff he's been doing lately. He will have a point that he is trying to get across, and he will throw jokes in there. Now, this was more jokes than the point because it was a comedy special, but a lot of his most recent specials have been more about the point, more about I'm telling you this story. Right. And like you said, I'm going to keep it light. I'm going to throw some jokes in, but it is I'm trying to get to this point.
Sure.
I appreciated this for what it was. He had a very salient point to make.
Yep.
And I agreed with his point. I don't know that I agreed with the way he went about getting it.
The delivery was off.
But, I think the delivery, I was like... and because I agreed with your point, I was like, I accept it. I'm cool with it. I'm with it.
Right.
I would have not said it, but I'm also not a paid comedian, so that ain't my lane. I don't know. So all of that to say, I understand the people who are mad who maybe did not watch the whole special.
Right.
Because I feel like the parts they saw were enough to make them be like, I don't like this.
Right.
So I don't want to sit through more of this if there's going to be more of this.
Right.
So yeah, there's stuff before or after that doesn't have nothing to do with this.
So here's the thing I will say though. Totally agree. Even with your anecdote about like, white person telling a story midway through, start dropping the N-word, whatever, right? The issue that I have with our society in general right now is that, and I don't even like to use the word issue because that gives, I think, too strong of a stance. But for lack of a better word, the issue that I have, though, is we aren't willing to feel uncomfortable anymore at all, right? In conversation, right? And shit, like even in relationship, right? And I think that, so this is something I try to tell some people, it's kind of as a way to understand relationships in general, is what we tend to do is we look for the people that we agree with first before we decide to love them, as opposed to loving them first and then dealing with either conversations that we agree with or conversations that we disagree with. And in that sense, like it transcends politics, all that shit. Like think about it, like we don't have any kind of across the aisle politics anymore because it's only we only talking to our base, and our base is so polarized that like if you were part of this base, you can't like anything over there. It's the same thing here, where if we're going into listening to a conversation or a stand-up or whatever it is with the mentality that I have my bias already, I'm not open to hearing anything that anyone else has to say, we cut ourselves off from being able to broaden our perspective. And that's kind of where this came, because I'm not, again, I get it. Like it was a lot. Like it was a lot. And I can imagine it being a lot for people who are part of particularly the trans community. Not even the alphabet community, but the trans community in particular. So I get it, right? But as much as I can get that and understand that, if you decide not to actually listen to the whole thing, then you don't get to have an opinion about the whole thing. You get to have an opinion about the clip. Yeah. That's my only thing. Like, you get to have an opinion about the one piece you listen to. You don't get to like cancel him in totality based off of a clip, though.
I was agreeing with you, but I disagree with you to that point. Here's what, like, I agree with you on the front part of it. However, the animal that is cancel culture means I don't have to. And I'm not saying this is a good thing.
Sure.
But it's what it is. Like, I don't need context to cancel someone.
And that's so problematic. And I know you said, I know you said that, like, you're not. Yeah, but that is the biggest issue, though, right?
But you're saying, but you're saying what should happen.
Right.
You shouldn't be able to cancel someone, but unfortunately,
you can. Right.
In today's society, and in today's society, we live in a world of sound bites, and we live in a world of 20-second clips.
But here's the beauty, though. You can't actually cancel. Like, it's like the idea of canceling. It's not really just canceling across the board. And that's the one thing I love about Chappelle in this particular situation, right? Because they tried to cancel him, but even in them trying to cancel him, Netflix was like, we're not removing.
Right. But here's the thing, though, right?
Yep.
With Chappelle, you have to remember, you can only cancel someone if their thing, their transgression, the thing that they did, is universally unpopular. The problem with Chappelle is, right now, the trans community, who are still like working for their, I guess,
their
acceptance,
stake, right?
whatever, they are still on this.
They're a minority. I get it. Yeah.
So they will not be able to cancel someone, and even their allies, because there are so many people.
That's the beauty, though. And when I say beauty, I don't mean it from the standpoint of big establishment taking advantage of the minority. It's that now we have an example where, honestly, a group that actually has a lot more power than other groups, which is literally part of like his like part of the stand up itself, right? Doesn't actually have the ability to cancel him in the particular situation. Now, I agree with you. He is a part of the establishment in this particular situation.
Right.
Netflix decided they're like, we're not going to cancel this.
Right.
I'm pretty sure part of it was because of financial pieces. Like another part of it, come on, like we know that. Another part of it, though, I'm sure is we saw the whole thing, and though there are some offensive parts, like
I don't think so.
Here's
why I don't think so. I've seen stuff where, like, perfect example, right? Roseanne. Nothing about her show
was racist.
She did some stuff in her personal time. They immediately canceled the show.
Right.
And because it was one of those things where the group you're offended right now, because let's face it, right now, black is the in thing, right?
That's a good point.
So, right. You offended the group that's in right now, and we don't have enough money invested in you to worry about this. I don't think the CEO of Netflix watched the whole thing and was like, no, I don't. No, I don't think.
Here's the only reason why I'll say yes and no. Right? Like, point well taken.
Well, so my question is, do you think they're taking the stance because they saw it and believe it's not offensive?
I think that plays a role. I'm not saying that's the reason. I think it plays a role. And kind of taking it back to like the Roseanne example, you're right. Like, her show had nothing to do with it, but what she said did have something to do with it. And essentially, like, she got dragged for what she said outside the show. Here, it's not like he said some offensive stuff about the trans community, like, from an aggressively, hear me out. I see your eyes already. He didn't say that outside the show, like, in some conversation that got taped, like, oh, F trannies and all this other, like, he didn't do that. It was the show itself which was the spark that caused the controversy. And that's why I say there's a little bit of nuance between, like, parts of what he said, it was offensive, but it wasn't the entire show. If you listen to the entire show, you see that it's not all offensive. Right. Like, that's what I mean. Like, there's just a nuance between the two examples.
Right. But the point I was trying to make was that I don't believe that the content is what kept it on there.
No, I'm not saying that's what kept it on.
Right. But I'm saying I don't even believe it played a part. Because here's what I'm saying. Okay. I believe that had he done something to offend, let's say it wasn't the trans community, right? Sure. Let's say he offended a community who was more well-established. I believe that it wouldn't matter what the content of the show was.
I see what you're saying.
If it was a community strong enough to actually get him canceled.
You don't think he would have got canceled still?
I think he would have gotten canceled.
Oh, okay. You think
because I believe that it wouldn't matter what the content of the show was. I don't think they watched it and was like, no, we didn't see any offense. Because again...
I just don't believe that there's a stronger community right now. Like,
I think because so many people, it is such a, the trans community is not new, but where they have gotten to, right, it is a new phenomenon for a lot of people with the whole concept of, for a lot of people, you're a man or a woman.
No,
right?
for sure. But
right. And what I'm,
okay.
So let me,
sorry.
What I'm saying is where they're at right now within the growth of the community and the level of acceptance. Because remember, we can use the example of like the gay community.
Sure.
And we talked about it all the time where like there would not be this number of like just gay people on television shows. And now they're starting to become not just placed more in television shows, but like in roles
representation is a thing now. Yeah.
And in a lot of the roles where it has nothing to do with them being gay.
Right.
Because before it was a big deal. Like if you had a gay character, well, that was their story. Sure. It was the arc was that they're gay. Now
that's just a part of their character.
Right. It's that talked about, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't see that from the trans community yet. So I don't think they've gotten that foothold into the.
This is why I disagree.
Okay.
Solely. Because they are, though they are a community in themselves, they are part of the LGBTQIA plus community. So they have allies within the alphabet that has nothing to do with them, but because like they're all fighting. So essentially it's like, yes, we're talking about the trans community, but it's not just the trans community that are complaining about this. It's the entire alphabet community. I should stop saying that shit.
But see, that's my point.
But the alphabet community though, even though I literally just said I should stop saying that, right? But the alphabet community have so much power.
They do. I don't think.
And that's what I'm saying.
But I don't think that the entire community is behind this.
Not the entire, but but they're able to ride the wave though. Like, come on, bro.
I don't think outside of the trans community that they have a lot. I mean, again, maybe I'm not seeing it. Maybe I'm wrong. I have not seen outside of specifically the trans community. A lot of the backlash.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'm just not seeing it. I think it's been mainly just the trans. It would be like if the black community had a problem, but someone offended only the Trinis. Right?
No, but like that's a perfect example though.
So here's what I'm saying. But the rest of the black community is like, I'm not as mad. So only the Trinis are mad.
Yeah, but. So using your same example, if only the Trinis are mad, right? But the Trinis have enough voice. If they're actually viewed as part of the black community, right? They have enough voice. They'll get the other black people.
But that's my thing. I don't think the trans are. That's the point I'm making. That's the whole point. I don't think they are getting. I'm not seeing anybody else.
They by themselves.
Right. That's how it's looking.
They're on the island by themselves.
From me watching who is actually protesting and stuff, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of other people have co-opted this fight with them.
I think we're going to put a pin in that particular part of the conversation and fast forward to now. Dave coming into town, his hometown, because he's from D.C., right? Going to Duke Ellington. And I think what it was his school that was honoring him for like
they were naming a building after
the Theater of Arts or whatever it was, like being named after him. And some child, I don't have to call him
not even a few students. A few students protested.
They protested, and like one called him a bigot. Which.
I mean, I don't even like. I mean, again,
I hate that word in particular for characterizing him, but cool, they called him a bigot. And essentially, what I loved about his response, and we can go back and forth on this as well for a bit before we move into Trinidad.
We ain't doing Trinidad.
We're talking Trinidad for a little bit, just a little bit.
We over an hour.
Just a little bit.
We ain't doing Trinidad.
I know it.
Yeah.
What I loved though was his love for his School of Performing Arts. Was big enough, or at least from a strategical standpoint, it was big enough for him to be like, the critics that are against this building being named after me, if you have such a problem about it, I will step aside if you all can raise enough money that outweighs the money that donors who are supporters of me have already raised. And to me, that literally, in my opinion, is the best way to actually use cancel culture. Like, if cancel culture could be used for the good, that would be all of the people who hate Dave find a way to rally all the people around and raise enough money for him to step aside for the school to still benefit from what it was gonna be with him. Like, I think it's poetic. I don't think it's gonna happen, but like, I think it's poetic as hell if they can pull that through.
I realize, like, I'm listening to it, and again, big supporter of Dave. I think, and this is the cynic in me, that this was more about a flex than his actual love for the school. Just hear me out. I think it was more of a, you can't
do this.
Right. You know what I'm saying? and so that's the only part with Joe that I disagree. I don't think it was about him saying,
it's not a disagreement at all. Like,
I love the school.
We agree with this.
Yeah. Like, I love the school so much that if you could find somebody, it was like, where you gonna go?
Right.
I'm Dave fucking Chappelle. I think that's what I think it was more right. I get it. You like it. I just think it was. I think it was. So when like someone had called him childish,
it levels the playing field.
Yeah, but again, if your intention was childish, then I'm still going to be like, I get it. What comes of it might be good.
Sure.
I'm still looking at what I thought your intention was, and I could be wrong. But the beauty part of not having a dog in this fight is it's okay for me to be wrong. I have right or wrong doesn't matter to Dave Chappelle or the school, because at the end of the day, the school is going to benefit somehow from it.
Right.
But me just looking at that and listening to some of the responses he gave the kids, I'm like, this is more about a flex on them. Like, guys, I'm still Dave Chappelle, right?
Sure.
So if you can do better than me, do it. Until then, shut up.
I rock with it.
No, I got you.
Right.
I'm neither here nor there with it. I'm indifferent to the approach, because at the end of the day, I want to support you because I'm a big fan. But like, I can rock with you as long as, I guess, the way you're handling things is in line with what I would find acceptable. Because as a fan, at the end of the day, for me to support you, you would need to be in line with what I like.
How I believe,
right.
Yeah.
And it's not saying you have to be. It's just saying that you may lose. And Dave Chappelle isn't going to lose me as a fan, because
we there.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, in general, like,
I'm with you.
When you do things a certain way, when you start to act a certain way, then I got to sit back and look, well, okay, how much am I still willing to support this person?
Sure. Because
now you're doing things that I would be like, yo, nah, you sound crazy right now. So all that to say, I do like the end result of the gesture of, hey, if you can do better than me, do it, and I won't even fight you.
Back. Right.
I'm not going to fight you if you can do better than me.
Right.
So we'll see what happens, what becomes of this.
I like the flex. And I know you said we're not going to do it. We're going to do it anyway.
Trinidad. For those of you who may or may not know.
Sure.
PM of Trinidad. Announced.
Dr. Rowley.
The Honorable Dr. Keith Rowley. Right. Not Nicki Minaj's friend's cousin with the balls issue. Someone different. He announced that Trinidad is going to have a modified carnival.
So it was a little different. I
super paraphrase.
I'll say it. Right. So essentially, there will be no street festival.
No street festival.
But there will be, I think what he called it, I'm going to say
vaccinated safe zones.
Before that,
vaccinated gathering.
It was like there will be elements of carnival and
in vaccinated
in safe zones, whatever. Right. So like, you just went to Trinidad. You were there for a while. My best friend.
I was there for like a weekend.
Right. So my best friend she lives there. So like, I actually had to contact her, like, yo, does this even make sense? So what she explained to me was they're already doing safe zones. And essentially the safe zones are set up in such a way where, like, let's say a bar, you have to be vaccinated to enter. And then the bar is supposed to only keep, like, I think it's half capacity of the people who can be inside the bar. So from a bar standpoint, I'm like, I get it. Like, that's more or less easy to manage.
Yeah, and it's no different from, like, I mean, they're taking examples of what,
like what's going on here, the cities, like New York, yeah.
So
here's the difficulty for me, though, right? A couple things. So one is the country still hasn't even opened the beaches. So like.
But they're opening them.
No, I know they are. I know they are, right? But like, they haven't yet.
So we haven't seen the
right. So they haven't even been able to open beaches yet, which would be, to me, the first sign of places where a multitude of people could be at one point, right? There's that aspect of it. There's the aspect that we are in November, about to be in December. So by the time this airs, we'll be in December. And Carnival would be in...
It's end of February.
End of February of next year. So we're talking about 3 months-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right?
2 months, really. Well, no, 3, because it's the end of February.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give him the pass. Yeah. Right. I'm gonna give him all. I'm gonna give him all December, all of January, all of February. Okay. Right. I'm also gonna throw in there that like Trinidad was also just rated per capita one of the highest infection rates. Oh no, not infection rates. Death rates per day.
Okay.
Globally.
Okay.
Now, granted, it's per capita, so like people are like, "Oh my God, no!" So it's Trinidad's a small country, so it's like I think their highest at one point was like 37 in the day.
I was trying to look it up
for like 100 for I think 1.5 million versus other countries that are bigger. Fine, all of that together, I just don't know how comfortable I feel about Carnival actually happening in the kind of scale where the parties or the events that we would want to go to are actually happening. I believe that they might be able to have Panorama because they could always socially distance, like the North Stand, the Grandstand, whatever it is. Kings and Queens, the same kind of thing. Anything in the Savannah, they can kind of do because it's not like a bunch of people congregated. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about like soca,
everybody going to fucking soca.
Ambush.
I ain't worried about that.
Like all the parties that we would go to, right? Like those events, whether we're talking about everyone has to be vaccinated or not, I just don't know from an infrastructure standpoint and a resource standpoint if they have an ability to actually manage this shit. And that's my only thing. Like, if it's gonna happen, best believe I gotta fucking be there. I don't care if it's one party I can fucking go to, I go in. But I just don't see it happening. Like I cannot materialize this in my head that this is gonna happen.
Okay. So for one thing, I think to enter the country right now, you got to be vaccinated anyway.
Yes.
So you're thinking about the foreigners, the people who are coming in. So I think that mitigates a portion of it because you've immediately put the onus on the verifying vaccination on customs and entry control, right? Sure. So you know that all the foreigners coming into the country have to be vaccinated.
Yep.
Now you got to deal with the citizens. I think...
Which is the way bigger issue.
It is and it isn't.
Okay.
Because if you think... When you talk about the events we would go to...
Sure.
Those are heavily... Foreigner patronized.
Sure.
So those events, the majority of your crowd that's even coming have to be vaccinated just to enter the country.
Sure.
Right? I think the reality of that whole situation becomes that we don't know what events, you said.
Right.
If you're talking about elements of Carnival, because when you think about like how Miami did it or how New York did it, the stuff that the actual committee sanctioned was the parade, the panorama, the kiddies mask, stuff like that.
Right. That's
the stuff that the ministry is probably going to get behind.
Right.
And then let the promoters fend for themselves. Now, while they're fending for themselves, they're going to give them, I would imagine, they're going to give them the parameters they have to work within.
Sure.
Here's the places you can go. Here's your capacity limits, whatever. Work within these confines. So that, to me, means that they are going to have a slightly more difficult time trying to pull it off because I'm going to tell you, you can't do X, Y, or Z. And I'm also low-key not even behind the idea of you having this event.
Right.
So I'm going to make it as difficult as I can for you to even pull it together. Not saying they can't, but... and if that's the case, I don't see it being something in this point worth attending. Not for me. Like,
I feel like if it's Panorama, I don't go in. But
Like, but even
if they have a fucking suka, go be there. No, I know you don't care, but like if there's a suka, I'm there.
I hope that shit crashes. I hope they racist asses. If anything get canceled, I hope them racists don't get to throw it.
If there any like parties,
I hope them racists don't get to throw
it. Yeah. If there any parties, I'm there.
I can't say any because here's the thing.
Like worth going to. That's
but here's what I mean, right?
Okay.
Let's use brainwash for example, right?
I'm there.
Let's say brainwash.
It's like Miami. Like I literally from Miami. I literally flew down to Miami to play in brainwash and flew right back.
Right.
So if there's a brainwash in Trinidad, I'll go in.
Listen what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. If it's gonna be brainwash in name only, meaning I'm throwing soca brainwash, and then there's gonna be a bunch of caveats and addition and shit that makes it. So that's why I said not just the name. Like sure. I could tell you could throw your party, and you throw your party. Keep the name, but because of all the restrictions,
I see what you're saying.
The party itself is not the same anymore.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I need to hear what is the setup in it, what precautions are being. Because I'm not even concerned with the precautions. My concern with the precautions are how do these precautions affect your ability to throw an event?
The event itself, yeah.
Right. So that's what I want to.
From that standpoint, yeah, I agree with you.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I can't just say I'm going because the party is being thrown. I want to hear. I know. Like I said, I know for a fact I'm not. And there's not a lot.
And I'm gonna tell you why I'm going to, right? Because even if the parties don't even if let's say to your point, a brainwash can't be the brainwash that we know, Frankie's on the Avenue will still be up on. So
but you don't know that. That's the thing. We're assuming.
No. But if we're talking about COVID safe zones, vaccinated, whatever, at least the smaller spaces can still house vaccinated people. Like. I am vaccinated.
I'm not, and also, I am going to Trinidad just to go Frankie. Like I'm not going. I'm not flying I'm not 5 hours.
I'm not going just to go Frankie either.
To the
but what I'm saying is, like, I'm gonna go for the parties, and then if the parties don't work out, like the Avenue gonna work.
Nah, son. I hear you. I know you.
Okay, so case in point though, we're talking about February in DC. I would still rather be in Trinidad, able to go to the beach, than be in DC in February. Like.
All right, I'll be fine. I'll be honest with you, dog. I'm gonna say this, and they might pull my citizenship.
They're about to. I'm about to.
I'm be real, son. Let's be clear and let's be honest about our island. Son.
This is the last comment of the show.
Let's be honest about our island, son. Let's be real. If we're not gonna be honest about everybody has a Trini.
Yo, we don't care. Like I don't even want to hear this shit. Like the beach in Trinidad. Fine, it's not. I'm about to say, I know exactly where you're going.
If that's the only thing I'm going Trinidad for,
I'm taking the wind out of your sails.
Okay, I'm about to say because if that's the only thing I'm going, I'm good. Son.
I'm not saying that Trinidad beaches are superior to the world. What I'm saying is Trinidad beaches are superior to being in DC in February. That's all I'm saying.
But I'm not saying that I would have to be in DC. I'm saying if the choice for me,
then go fucking Jamaica, bitch.
Is the choice for me, I ain't going there neither. Son, the Queen still own them apparently. So.
That's for the episode. And they don't own them, but they're accountable.
All right, yo.
Thank you for attending the Guys Unpacked Episode 1, Season 2. This is Dre.
This is Rich. We are back. We're going to have some new content for you guys every week. Shout out to Soundbag Entertainment, C-Spot Media in the building.
Yes, sir.
Getting us back up and running. So we will be back next week. New content. We're going to hit some of the stuff we did not hit this week. Because we got to talk about Joe.
Sleepy Joe.
We got to talk about Joe. But all right, guys. So, and with that, we are out.
We out. If you enjoyed this, make sure you check out all of our full episodes on YouTube at Guys Unpacked.
Also available anywhere you get your podcast. And follow us on all social media at Guys Unpacked.